Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is the kickoff broadcast for the Armchair Dragoons digital convention for 2024. Joining me is Mr. Brant from the Armchair Dragoons.
What's up?
Dragoon Commander himself from sunny North Carolina.
Oh, we are so not sunny. We've got the same storm you've got.
I bet you do. And the weather outside here is crap. It actually interfered with my table project today because I had to go rescue a pop-up that we had out in the backyard.
Yeah.
So
it's been cloudy and windy all day, and now it's raining, and the wind's going to get worse for the next couple hours. So I'm hoping that I stay on the air this whole time.
Well, you better. Otherwise. So what do you got in store for us with the Armchair Dragoons digital convention this year that's new from last year, preferably?
So stuff that's different this time. We do have another RPG event. So we had a couple years ago, we had Twilight 2000 as a very well received RPG event.
Mm-hmm. And, sold that whole thing out, as I recall.
Yep. And it ran for like 6 hours, which was crazy because usually for events like this, folks want to play shorter, like 3, maybe 4 hours max, so they've got time to get into other stuff. It ran 6 and would have ran long if the GM didn't have something else he had to go do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of cool. And so this time though, we've got the guys behind the Nations and Cannons RPG are doing.
Oh, okay. Those people.
So
right.
It's an American Revolution game. It's an RPG, but it is very historically grounded. This isn't a bunch of dungeon crawling stuff. Like, I got nothing against dungeon crawling. You and I are both longtime role playing dudes.
Oh, sure.
But that's not the focus of what we're doing with the ACDC. But this one's very historically grounded. The guys from the Players Aid ran a Nations and Cannons session.
Indeed, they did. That is the only reason I've even heard of the damnable thing. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah,
D&D and the American Revolution.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, they used the 5th edition rule set to build it all.
Right.
We had interviewed Pat Mooney, who's the lead designer and kind of company runner. He's not the only dude because he's got like 10 people doing stuff with him. Mm-hmm. But he's the main guy behind it. We had interviewed him on the podcast like 2 seasons ago. I actually did that interview while I was in Reno at Gamma Expo. Is when I did, because they had a Kickstarter going on at the time. Pat's a great dude. He's doing the session tomorrow, and he's got one of their other dudes. Yes, I got a face. Mm-hmm. It's not much of one, but it's the
we didn't even. I asked him to wear a bag over his head, but he, being not from Cleveland, he doesn't have one.
Yeah. But yeah, so they've got 2 sessions set up there at noon both days. They're set to run for about 4 hours. There's no experience needed. Like, they'll teach as they go. But then we also shanghaied Pat into a discussion on Sunday afternoon around 2:00. We've got a seminar panel with Pat, so designer behind Nations and Cannons, and Harold Buchanan and Merle Robinson from NSDM. The 3 of them are going to talk about designing war games for the American War.
Okay, so Merle is going to talk, and the other 2 will try to interject when possible.
Well, I've got Harold there to balance Merle out. I feel sorry for Pat, but
that's fair.
But I do have Harold there to balance Merle out. So
that's fair.
Yeah, so we've got those guys. We've got a couple of. I mean, we typically have a bunch of small press dudes floating around here. This time we've actually got a bunch of pre-press stuff running around. Mm-hmm. Guys from Code Atlas have a pair of sessions for stuff that's not yet published. As we are on the air, I think Liz and David just wrapped up Night Witches as we were going on the air, and then Justin Facino has been running a Seljuk game all night, which it's on P500 with GMT, right? It's going to get published, but it's not published yet.
No, it's already in the production queue, though. I mean, it's coming. It might not be soon, but it's not in jeopardy. It's getting published
sooner than.
And it looks good.
Yeah, and so we've got a bunch of stuff that's not yet in print. On Sunday afternoon, Peter Robbins is doing Take That Street, which is a lightweight war game focused at the professionals. That's designed to be a lightweight training game. It is the urban equivalent of the Take That Hill game, that the UK Fight Club designed and was handing out through the professional ranks. Peter's been helping them test Take That Street, which is the urban equivalent of the same game. So folks that want to take a chance with that one, that one's on Sunday afternoon. So that again, we've always had some smaller, more independent focused folks at the ACDC. This time we've actually got a bunch of pre-press stuff as a part of all that. So
okay, that's cool.
What we don't have this time, we don't have Mo this year because
well, Mo's busy. So what can I say?
For folks that don't know, Mo is also a hockey announcer for his local professional hockey team there in Texas. Not the Stars; it's a minor league team, but they've got like 3 games in 4 nights this weekend, and so he's all tied up calling hockey games. So we are Mo-less this time. All right, so Jeff's coming to us from the Night Witches demo. Jeff, let us know how it went.
They're calling me Typhoid Gary, so I'm the bearer of friggin' COVID every time.
Yeah, we're all hoping nobody's computer gets a virus from Gary.
That's true. We told somebody his computer was going to get virtual VD. The stuff he was browsing to. But anyway, so who's covering the Sunday show then?
So the Sunday evening one, we're going to do a little different. Instead of broadcasting a goodbye kind of thing, we're going to do a Discord happy hour. And so it'll be
there you go.
Attendees. We're not going to broadcast the thing. It's going to be a lot more sort of open discussion with other folks. Everybody grab a beverage. Let's talk about what all happened and, share some more stories and whatever. So that's what we'll go with.
So what are the highlights of this year's digital event?
So along
besides the D&D and the American Revolution thing.
So along the lines of things that aren't yet in press, tomorrow evening, Grant from Pushing Cardboard has a show with Volko, and Volko is going to be showing off his new game that the publisher wants to wait to make all the announcements themselves in terms of title and cost and artwork and whatever. But Volko's got a Vassal module. He's got permission to show off some of the new game. It is a World War II game that is not coin or levying campaigns. It's a whole new system that Volko's doing. And so Grant's going to be interviewing him tomorrow night and showing that one off. So that'll be one of the fun bits that we'll get a look at. One of the other big events that I haven't checked the registration lately. I'm hoping some more people jump in there. The Robotech Reconstruction guys are back with us again. Dr. Witz is bringing back the show, but they're running this one as a tournament. And I think they've got some sort of prize support from Strange Machine Games on the other end of it all. So it's a chance to get some Robotech gaming in, but also, have some bragging rights in some sort of formal official fashion as a part of it all.
Yeah. Exciting. Volko's got something new. That's not like, it's exciting if Volko has whatever new, but it's even more exciting if he's got something like completely new in the pipeline as opposed to one of the 15 series he's revolutionized.
I'm sure this is going to be the start of a whole new series that like 12 other people are going to jump on.
Oh, very plausibly, because it's Volko. Yeah. Why not? It's like, well,
exactly.
Obviously, it's a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, it's sort of playing the hits, right?
Exactly.
Keep doing it. So that's the Robotech game's kind of a bigger one tomorrow that's going to be running for a bit. One of the challenges we had is, look, we always do a holiday weekend, and it's not that we're running into an issue being on the same weekend with Winter Offensive. It's that a lot of people are taking some time off and like burning vacation. And so a couple of the folks that are normally here with us as GMs and participating there, we don't have for as much time as we normally would, which is why there's only the one session of Seljuk tonight, because Justin's leaving town tomorrow and wasn't available for the rest of the weekend. And then Liz, the reason David and Liz only have the one session tonight is Liz is tied up in stuff all weekend. So some of the folks we were hoping to get a little more time with, we're just unfortunately not able to this year. Bit of a bummer. Would have been nice. So,
well, it happens too, right? It looks like there's a good spread of events, and we got 67 people watching already, which I think is outstanding. So there's that. So
I'm just checking. We're over 60 checked into the Discord already. We got mid 60s worth of registrants. Winter Offensive obviously is cutting into our registration a bit.
Maybe maybe, I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I believe there is a third winter game happening at Winter Offensive this year. But usually there's like one SCS game, one OCS game, one BCS game, and then like 15 tables of GCACW and 90 tables of ASL.
Yeah, so yeah.
So I mean that's my Winter Offensive experience. And I'd like to go. It's a cool event actually, but kind of you want to be playing one of those. I mean, there is pickup stuff, but you kind of want to be playing one of those things if you go. So barring the communities for those people and those of those communities who can't get there should be here tomorrow because we've got demos of OCS and GCACW with this thing.
Yep.
So if you weren't able to make it, there you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how much crossover there's like you're not running like a big ASL tournament on this thing or GCACW. So I think you're okay. So I don't think you're really limiting your audience by doing it this weekend. Although it's inconvenient for me on whatever whenever it comes up that I get to go back to Winter Offensive because then I'll be like, sorry, Brant, going to Winter Offensive.
Well, and tomorrow evening with the so 2 ACDCs ago, I did kind of a little keynote talk that was sort of here's where the Dragoons are at this point in our life, and here's what's coming up and what we're doing and where we're going. And I didn't do one last year, and a couple of people asked like, why didn't you do that? That was great. So I brought it back for this year. And then one of the
should do that actually. And in fact, that ought to be public too. Did you broadcast that?
Well, it will be after the fact.
Okay, fair enough.
That is going to be a YouTube show, but like most of them, they're unlisted. You got to be a convention attendee to get the YouTube link for it. I know we do this one openly broadcast for everybody because we want to drum up some additional support for folks signing up for and joining some of the games at the ACDC. But the talks like Grant's talk with Volko tomorrow, it's an unlisted YouTube link, so you've got to be a convention attendee to get that to be able to participate live, and then afterwards we'll flip them over to public so folks can get a chance to see what happened afterwards. And it's the equivalent of setting up the video camera in the back of the room at a live convention, right?
Right. Did you mean to be broadcasting this show live on the Armchair Dragoons channel, by the way?
It's supposed to be unlisted. Are we live?
I mean, I don't see it, so I assume it's unlisted.
It should be unlisted.
All right, well then you're doing it right, so don't worry about it.
So
all right. It seems completely senseless to me, but okay.
The other couple of panel talk show kinds of things we got. Jim Werbineth is doing a pair of historical talks, one on the Battle of Gazala and one on Incheon. Those are noon each of the 2 days. Tomorrow afternoon, Hissy Cat. I saw Hissy Cat pop up in the chat. He's here somewhere. He's going to be talking about the postcards from the front contest, and we've got a couple of the CNA folks who are doing some of the little micro games, and so we're doing the postcards of war panel.
You got the campaign for North Africa development team. That's awesome. I would like a word.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a bunch of folks on talking about small format games and some of the challenges of designing for small format stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, that works.
And then tomorrow night, bandwidth permitting, the Starfleet Tactical guys are doing a special ACDC episode of Starfleet Tactical for us. So that'll be fun. So if you're into sci-fi combat, we've got a 2-hour show on that one tomorrow night. So since we're well underway here. Yes.
We've got Origins coming up too, at which the Dragoons have a substantial footprint. So let's talk about that. Even though we've talked about that publicly before, but let's at least mention a big deal at Origins, right?
I want to go ahead and make your hair stand on end. They moved the event submission deadline up. It's now like the 2nd of February. So I will be calling you this week to lock down the rest of our schedule.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll play. We'll play Normandy 44 if we got to. It'll be fine. So.
Yeah. The last year was our best attended year of the War Game HQ since we started in 2014. Mm-hmm. We had more events. I think in 2017 was our high water mark for number of events, but this year we had more attendees by far.
Mm-hmm. John, thanks very much. If anybody can, it will be me. So I will report back when I've learned the answer.
Yeah, so we had more attendees last year than ever, and like you were there, you saw it. We were tripping over.
Oh
each
yeah,
other
it was packed.
Now, part of the problem was a lot of the people that were just sort of standing around wanting to watch and see what was going on were doing it in that middle runway right in the middle of our booth that we needed to be able to move around our booth instead of standing in the aisle and looking over people's shoulders from there. They were getting in our way to watch. But this coming year, we're going to double the footprint of our floor space. And we're not going to quite double the event count because part of what we're adding are some longer events, but it's going to go up significantly. We're almost doubling the number of tables, so we're going to have quite a lot more space that we're going to be working with.
Yeah, more on that as it develops too. So
yeah,
we're several angles are being worked here, folks.
Yeah. The one thing we're going to be lacking, I was really hoping for a giant 5x8 sort of traffic stopping, really cool giant minis table, and unfortunately, both of our primary minis targets are unavailable that weekend. It's one of them's birthday, so dude, I'm already coughing as it is. I'm good.
There's other shit going around besides COVID too. My wife got something, and she went to the doctor, and it wasn't COVID, and it wasn't the flu, so it lasted about 2 or 3 days. So
there was a lot I was hoping to get done over the holiday break because I'm fortunate. My day job, I was able to take the entire week off, and a couple of days on either side as well. Just basically, my vacation matched my daughter's from school. And I got a cold like right at the start of that, which didn't help. But then I got the second dose of the shingles vaccine, and that kicked my ass. I was laid out. The first dose didn't bother me. Though. It's better than shingles. The first dose didn't bother me, but the second dose, I was flat for 3 days.
This sounds fun.
Yeah, it was. So yeah, that was pretty miserable. So
awesome. Their official dining of Winter Offensive is Olive Garden. They're over there in Bowie, Maryland, or wherever it's at.
Aaron is slightly nuts. Aaron's actually registered for the ACDC and has been popping into the Discord and checking some things out from Winter Offensive.
You know what Aaron, we call that? Hardcore.
We greatly appreciate the support. Carl, I got to ask, why are you looking into traveling down to North Carolina?
Well, hopefully it's with barbecue because there ain't anything else in there.
Well, the barbecue.
Unless you want the ASL forward war game store, then by all means.
We're gonna have the fall assembly coming back this year in October, and so we're gonna be doing that again. You're welcome to come on out. Assuming you want to take the chance, Breeze Airways is going to have a direct San Diego to Raleigh flight starting.
Is that the little Buddy Holly plane?
Maybe. I'm not
sure.
Yeah,
that's what I figured. It's a little Buddy Holly plane.
Apparently Breeze is like one step up from Spirit, but I think riding in the back of a UPS package hauler is a step up from Spirit.
Yeah, the humidity's got to be probably under control in October, though, is my thought.
Yeah, probably October it's not an issue.
It's probably rather nice in North Carolina in October, actually.
Yeah, it's May through August that really sucks.
Yeah, don't go then.
Yeah. Sorry, Hissy Cat. We didn't mean to ruin your evening.
Doors come off like United does. and do they beat the shit out of their passengers like United does?
I did like the meme that I saw today of a couple of Army paratroopers standing in the door, like, looking out the door going, door came off the plane. Isn't it supposed to?
Yeah.
And of course the caption is it's a lot less terrifying when you have a parachute on,
Yeah. No, this is about right. When I was there, I would say, and maybe it's early. Well, it's probably not super early, but I mean, it'll be in full swing tomorrow, right? And when I was there, it was probably, I think I actually counted the tables. It was something like 65% ASL, like another 25% GCACW, and like smattering of other things.
Yeah,
that's basically yes. By all means, would love to see the pictures. Somebody's already posted. I've seen a few already, but make sure you take pictures of all the stuff that I'm not able to buy.
Don't you have it all?
Speaking of that, yeah, well, that's true. Somebody asked me, "Hey, is there anything you need?" And I'm like, "No, not really."
Yeah.
And either I don't need it because I have it, or it's out of print, or it ain't out yet. So
yeah.
So is there any shopping consideration lined up for this year's Armchair Dragons digital event, like discounts or anything like that?
So we don't have anything with any vendor partners lined up. We do have a thing. I'm going to pull it up on screen here. Give me just a second. We do have a discount code and a handful of ACDC specific things from our Teespring shop.
There you go. That's a good idea. Good call.
Give me half a second here. Let's get this on screen.
Swag.
Yeah, a little bit of swag. So we've got whenever you can. Do I need to add that to the show, or you got to add that to the show?
Where did you put it?
It's down at the bottom of the screen. Haha, there we are. So we've got a discount code set up for the week that if you use the code Hexagon, you're going to save 10%. I didn't know you could do that until today. Like I literally found that out today when I was loading the ACDC logo stuff. So we got the 4 things with the ACDC logo on them. The sweatshirt, that's a die cut sticker is the second thing in there. The t-shirt and the mug, and you can get a couple of different colors of each of those. Mm-hmm. But the discount works on all the other Dragoons stuff also. So we've got the Dragoons logo, the Zone of Control logo, and the Hex Life logo that we've got stuff on. So
there you
go. I sound like a total commercial pitch man here, but
that's kind of the point. So it's either that or we're going to talk about all the cool stuff I got.
Yeah, well, we can do that too. But so yeah, we've got a variety of different stuff. So there's the Zone of Control logo one, and then the Hex Life, which doesn't look great on the blue shirt because of the white border, but the other one looks fine. So
it's fine.
So yeah, that's the link is in the Discord. We'll throw it in the chat here in a second. But the discount is good for anybody hitting the it's good for anybody hitting the store, not just folks that are at the attendee.
Do they have Skirmisher? Whoever's there, do they have Skirmisher 4 at Winter Offensive? I didn't think they were going to.
I think they just put it on pre-order like 2 weeks ago.
It was more than that. It's been a couple of months, but Twilight of the Reich, though, yeah, they just put it up like a week or so ago.
I don't think Skirmisher 4 has been up that long because I went back looking through like 8 weeks worth of Tuesday News Days when I saw it on the MMP site the other day. And like I took the week off between Christmas and New Year. I was planning on not running a Tuesday News Day that week anyway. But I didn't see it pop. I hadn't seen it pop up at all before that. So
I'm checking because their website lists the date that it went on.
Yeah. All right.
This was added on September 25th.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I did order Skirmisher 4. I did not order Twilight of the Reich.
So
I'm not playing enough
ASL
to
Skirmisher 4 was
that.
there, and I just didn't go back far enough to find when we put it in the news.
Missed it in the news.
I
think it was added at the same time as the new Operational Matters. I think
it could be. For folks that are watching that are not already registered for the convention, just so to hit a couple of highlights, some other games we've got going on, in case you're interested and want to jump into the convention, we do have the guys from IKS are doing a big Kriegspiel on Sunday afternoon. So that one's run entirely in the Discord. You don't need Vassal or TTS or anything for that. And they run it as close to.
No, you don't, because you don't have any information. That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. So you are in a channel on your own. The umpire will pop in, update you, get your orders, and come back and keep you going. So that's how they inform you. But it's very easy to sort of digitally blind people the same way we put them in the study carols when you do a real Kriegspiel. We've got.
You're going to be amazed how attractive study carols are to passersby at Origins.
Dude,
wow! Look,
you were there that year.
No, that totally happened. It seems weird. It's not like there's a bunch of fancy shit going on. They're like, it's just cardboard, right?
I know. But everybody's walking by like, what are these guys taking the LSATs or something?
Yeah.
But then once we explain what's going on, they're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to come back and do that.
Yeah. You had to pull some players out to be referees or at least runners.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that happen again in the area, because it drew in a lot of people and it was interesting. And I think Wargamers ought to do it at least once.
So the way the schedule is currently set up for Origins next year, with the table arrangements, we currently have a block of time to be able to run at least one Kriegspiel across 3 of the tables.
There you go.
I think we can make space for a second one if the GMs are amenable to it. But that's what we're trying to do. So Birdman, you for the TTS events, you only need Tabletop Simulator because the GM will have the module stuff already set up and loaded for you. So you're going to be joining the GM's table where they're going to have everything in place already.
Maybe I had to watch the How to Do Tabletop Simulator thing, because I was going to tell you needed to get I don't think you have to buy it, but I think you need them. I thought you needed the modules. So it's not like Vassal where everybody needs the module.
Nope. Tabletop Simulator, you just need to be able to get into Tabletop Simulator, and you will get invited to someone else's table that has everything sitting there to play. So
live Kriegspiel in LA, the hotbed of North American Kriegspiel play.
It actually is.
I don't know if is it LA Louisiana or LA Los Angeles?
That's going to be Los Angeles because Achilles is out on the left coast.
Okay.
So yeah, tomorrow
Code Atlas looks pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah,
this will be worth checking out.
We've got 2 of those. Tomorrow morning, we've got a big 4-hour World at War 85 game that Keith and Devin are running. We've got the Robotech tournament I already mentioned, Code Atlas, Nations and Cannons. The schedule says People Power. It's actually All Bridges Burning. Andrew had to make a late pivot to that because there was an issue with the Vassal module on People Power. So he pivoted over to All Bridges Burning. Carl and Tim did their how to use Vassal and TTS starting at noon earlier today. So unfortunately that one's gone, but Carl is got a couple more games coming up. He's got both Black Horse and Atlantic Chase over the next 2 days. James Buckley's going to be in to do Iron Blood, Snow and Mud. We've got Order and Opportunity. Mark Walker is going to be showing off his new game. It's Raid on Arich. I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sure. But, again, going back to things that aren't in print yet, we got Mark Walker showing up doing one of those. Tomorrow night, Gary's got the OCS boot camp. And then Patrick's got the Learn to Play session for GCACW. And then on Sunday, we've got Code Atlas again, Nations and Cannons again, and the Kriegspiel. Atlantic Chases that day. The guys from Ad Astra Games are doing a couple of their different space dogfighting games. There's one going on right now, but there's one each of the next 2 days also. And then we've also got Valor and Fortitude, I think, is running right now. So we've got some Napoleonic minis. We don't have Ozarski with us this year. It's his wife's birthday. It's one of the milestone birthdays. I'm not giving away his wife's age, but it's a milestone birthday. And
she looks younger than Jim does. I'll tell you that.
Well, yes.
Just saying.
And he rather smartly and correctly decided to spend it celebrating with his wife rather than hanging out with us online.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. You got to build that karma up, right?
Yes.
So what you got to, so it's available when really needed, like for Origins, for example.
Yes. But Haz is filling the breach for us some. He's got a Valor and Fortitude game and a Blucher game. And then we've also got, we've never had Escape from Colditz at the ACDC before, and we've got one of those. So we've got quite a bit of stuff. And I'm sure I left something out in here somewhere. I'm sure I missed something somewhere.
Oh, you did, I'm sure. There'll be an angry letters will be written. So
Aaron Volko's session isn't until 7:00 tomorrow night. So
isn't I want to say Patrick's session doesn't start till like 9 tomorrow night, right?
Patrick's on at 9. So the GCACW session is I even asked him, and look, he's in the chat. He'll probably stand up for himself. I was like, dude,
you know what? Whatever works, right? You know, some people are lucky enough that they work at noon. That's actually terrible if you do, but I'm just saying.
I worked second shift briefly and can't stand it.
We thrive on policy questions here in the Armchair Dragoons kickoff chat.
No, Rob, absolutely good question. So we have some GMs that will actually stream to a YouTube channel, and we tell folks it's no problem to openly stream to YouTube, but we ask GMs as much as possible to at least stream to Discord so folks can do exactly that they can pop in and watch. And look, it's it's the closest we're going to get to being able to just sort of walk around a convention and look over people's shoulders at the different tables. But we do ask the GMs to try to do that. And it's something that folks do enjoy about the ACDC. It's trying to get as close as we can to replicating the real convention experience. Just tonight, I popped in, I was watching Seldrick for a little while, and I watched All Bridges Burning for a little while. Just taking a look around and seeing what was going on. So I did not pop into the Wargame Boot Camp because the way Carl and Tim run that, where they're bouncing between apps so much, I didn't want to accidentally interrupt something. So I kind of
now. Did you set up a new Discord server for this year's event, or is it on the old one?
No, we set up a new one for every year.
Okay. Am I in that?
I don't know. You were invited.
I don't think I am.
You've got a GM badge, and I've sent you the GMs the Discord server link multiple times. So
maybe I should stop ignoring your emails. Where I think you're going with this.
That's possible. All right, we're gonna make sure you've got there. All right, now.
All right, so that's fine. We'll figure it out.
We'll get you the Discord invite again.
Fine.
So yeah, that's that. Again, I don't think that's all the events, but that's a pretty good sampling of them. So if folks are watching and haven't already popped in, I'll throw the link in the chat here in a second for the tabletop.events registration site. Look, it's $350 to register this year. We cut the price back a little bit this year. Part of it was
from a larcenous $5.
Well,
Harold raised the price.
When we had to set the price, I mean, the price had normally been $5, and we do an early bird at like $2 for the first dozen or so people to sign up. We cut the price back a little bit this year because when we had to set the price, the event listing, quite frankly, was about half of what we ended up with. We had a lot of folks pop out of the woodwork over the Christmas break and say, "Hey, I'm willing to come do this." We're like, "All right, sure." And so we ended up with a pretty full session relative to the other 5 ACDCs before this. And so this one's turning out to be a little bit of a bargain compared to other years.
So Jeff, yes, it will be. Might be available at the time. So
yeah. So there's the link for it. For the folks that are in the Discord, all the YouTube links for the shows are already in their appropriate channels in the Discord. For the folks that are broadcasting their event, like Gary's OCS Bootcamp, those aren't, unless he's already got the link to share, those aren't going to go live until the GM actually goes live on those. So,
well, that's true, but I'll dump the share in the once I get it in the damn server.
So that, again, it's one of the perks that the attendees get, right? You get to actually watch and in some cases participate live, which is the equivalent of being at the convention itself. And if you're not at the convention itself, you get to watch stuff after the fact as though we videotaped it and gave it to you to watch then.
So we've already answered this. Yes, it'll be in October. Do you have actual dates, or are you just saying October?
We don't have actual dates. Part of it is facility availability. We've got requests out to 3 or 4 places because we're going to see about moving it out of the game store this year. It was a great place to host it this year for just getting it started up because it gave us a really low barrier to entry. But I think, not picking on the store, I think they will be happy when we're out of there because it's more game space they've got for other people to
and they don't have to deal with that Brant anymore. That'll be great.
No, they're still stuck dealing with me on other stuff.
Always coming in, hassling in them.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it'll also trying to find somewhere with an attached hotel, I think is the biggest piece of all this. So
there is a website for that, by the way. I forget what it is. There's a website. You just start calling hotels.
That's why we've got requests out to several hotels for, hey, we need to know what's part of the challenge we run into is October is really the right time to do this around other events in the wargaming calendar. But there's 2 weekends in October that you lose every year right around here because of State Fair, and all the hotels are completely jacked because of that. So,
okay. Well, I didn't really, the North Carolina State Fair wasn't something that was really on my radar. So
yeah. It's not for people from out of state, but it is one of the largest state fairs in the whole country.
But it smells like cow poop.
Part of it does. we're still got a pretty significant agricultural chunk here. It's actually far more pork and poultry than it is cows, but
yeah. Well, Chet will we'll have news on that when we have news on that. Inquiries have been made. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. But Chet, we are going to do it. October is the time frame we're aiming for again. It will be here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. Again, Raleigh and Cary are adjacent. So it's, if we end up across 40 over into Cary, okay, fine. That just means we're closer to Gamers Armory for a field trip over there. So
yeah, well, we'll see. The money's got to make sense. That's the thing. And unless you live there, it's an expensive event. So
yeah. And Gary, I know you've talked some about some of the conventions you're planning on trying to hit this year, and we can probably recap a couple of them. We're planning on being at BGF. I'm going to be there. I think Mike's coming along as well.
good, that'll be great. I will be there. I actually put in for the time off today.
And then Origins obviously gonna be a part of, and then the fall assembly for sure. The other thing that is up in the air, well, there's two of them up in the air. There's a spring convention that's done by the Triangle Simulation Society here in the Raleigh area. They are the primary minis wargaming club here, and they're a pretty big group. They've been running their own smaller conventions for several years now, and we've covered them at the Dragoon site. They've got a spring thing coming up in Burlington, Greensboro area that they've offered us some space that we may see about doing something with that. But Gamma Expo is still out there looming kind of big, that if I end up doing Gamma Expo, I will not do Circle DC. If I don't do the Expo, there's a pretty good chance I can make it to Circle DC.
Now, when is Circle DC?
That is, so Circle DC and BGF kind of flip dates this coming year.
Okay.
So Circle DC is earlier in the late March, first part of April. It's 5 or 6 weeks ahead of BGF.
Okay.
I could look it up, but I'm being lazy. I'm sitting in front of a computer and I'm too lazy to look it up.
So early buzz on BGF is GBACW. There's likely to be a Lava Tie game as well. And Origins, we haven't made a final decision yet, but apparently we're going to have to make that final decision presently.
You've got about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I need like full friggin' hazmat gear is what it comes down to. Yeah, there'll be big stuff happening at both of those events. BGF, Carl, is the Buckeye Game Fest. Yeah, it's just as expensive for you to come out to that as it is for me to go out to San Diego HistCon. So
the Buckeye Game Fest takes place in part of the Columbus Convention Center, which is the same place where Origins is run. So
yeah, well, fortunately, Molotov Cockatiel, you've got one right on the Armchair Dragoons website.
Well, he said he needed an updated calendar, and I'm still working on getting the updating done. Again, that was one of 2 or 3 things that I was planning to do during the Christmas break when I was flat on my back. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks for that thing. So
I took, at least you got to rest, right? There's that. I took the whole week off. And I made it a point to not do channel stuff that week. I mean, I did check messages and stuff like that, but I took 2 days off where I just kind of loafed and slept in and took naps and all that stuff. And then after that, I was like, I've got to clean the garage, got to power wash the driveway, blah, 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 blah. So
I had plans to do Jack, and I did not. I had plans to do some admin support kind of stuff for the site, some things for the ACDC, so updating the convention calendar, a couple other things. The one thing I did do was I got some of the new graphics done for our Tuesday Newsday page. And so that's those new graphics, folks are now seeing that. But I don't have the next season of the podcast scheduling all sorted out yet. Which is why
I suggest making the entire series all Traveler episodes.
You're welcome to do that on your show.
Just saying, Winterfest.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't get done as much as I would have liked. So
no, I totally sympathize. So
it'd be
cool to see you actually playing something.
Give me 2 to 3 weeks or so, and we'll have the calendar updated over on the Dragoon site with the big mass calendar that you can just subscribe to through Google Calendar and get all your events coming in that way. So
yes, exactly. That's exactly right. All traveler all the time. It's all good.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to see you get to actually play something from time to time, huh?
Look, at BGF, I did actually,
Yeah, that's
because
true. You did. You got to
the
play a
way
couple
the
things.
scheduling worked out, we had an odd number of players for all of the Dragoons events, and so I jumped in to even the numbers, which was kind of nice. And then I also got a chance to play Night Witches with David Thompson. I don't know if David's in the chat, but
I haven't seen him. He usually says hello if he is.
yeah, I got a chance to play Night Witches, and then I sat and I played. I played one of the ones with Tim's crew from Catastrophe, one of the
Right.
pre-plus ones. I think it was.
Yeah, they had at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 different in development projects with them.
Yeah, I think it was True Command that I sat down and played with them. But then at Origins, everything worked out to where the couple of things I was GMing had even numbers of stuff, so I didn't have to play. I was able to just GM. And then at Fall Assembly, the really cool one I got to play was I got to play a bunch of Third World War with Bruce. So
there you go. You mean NATO, of course?
NATO, yeah. Third World War was Origins.
NATO's really good, but
yeah,
but NATO's really good too. Well, they're both really good. Let me put it that way. I think they're serving the same interest in different ways.
Yeah,
because you could technically play NATO in a day. We didn't, but technically, supposedly, you can. Whereas Third World War is going to be a bit of a project.
Yeah, Keith Tracton and I were playing the Reds against Bruce, and Bruce was kicking our ass even with really bad die rolls. And, but then the last day of Fall Assembly, I sat down and played. Keith has been developing a squadron level air game in the World at War 85 universe, and had a playtest version of that with him. And so I got a chance to sit down and play that with him for a couple hours. That was pretty cool.
That sounds like an interesting extension of the World War 85 thing.
Yeah, it was.
I say with no interest in it in particular, but
he's found some neat ways to account for all 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional map.
Is it going to have that thing from Baldur's Gate 3 where it's got like the big mind flayer ship floating through the air?
No,
attacked by dragons. Is that going to be in the game?
No, okay. Sorry. Now each of the hexes for the 2-dimensional space inside the hex has kind of a spiral down to show descending elevation, and so you can move hex to hex across the same elevation and kind of miss people even though you're in the same hex because you're on different elevations, or from a higher versus lower elevation in the same hex does confer advantages and disadvantages in air combat. So
that'd be interesting to see if he can pull that off without it being a giant pain in the ass.
It wasn't too pain in the ass-ish.
Okay, good. That's good.
It's raw. Like, don't get me wrong. This is
a long time since Star Force, folks.
There's some pictures of it from the Fall Assembly reports over on our website, because we had some people asking, what the hell is that? That's what it was. It was Keith's World War 85 era air game, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I think extending that to an air game, I think that's a neat idea. Yeah. I could see if you're gonna like extend that product line. I mean, maybe Lock and Load has tried to dabble in the past with kind of having this like multi-pronged approach to a game. I remember the RPG that they did, for example, which I think probably you were the only person I've talked to that had done anything with it, but you liked it. So what can I say?
Yeah. So there's the original Lock and Load folks back when Mark was running the company had a variety of different extensions of some of the product lines that all tended to stay on the same scale. So like there were a lot of expansions to the original World at War series. David's taken things in some slightly different directions, which is interesting to see. So yeah, look, all you guys talking about SD Hiss, look, I want to be able to get there. It's just we've talked about this before, and Gary knows, like the reason I do BGF and Origins every year is I stay with my folks. Like I do it dirt cheap. I got to pay for a tank of gas and that's it. Like I'm staying for free and I'm eating mom's food. So I'm good. I don't have anybody in San Diego I can do that with, and I got to get on a plane to get there. So
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to drive. Would it be cool to drive? Sure. Do you want to
No,
take an
no.
extra 2 weeks off to go to a 3-day convention? Because that's about what you're talking about.
I've I've driven cross country in my life 5 different times. I'm not doing it again. I did it 3 times with my parents growing up, and I've done it twice since I've been an adult.
I mean,
I'm
that could,
not doing it again.
I would think that would be a completely enjoyable experience. I was talking to somebody who took the train somewhere, and I don't remember who that was or where they were going. But
I'd be willing to do it on the train. Yeah,
that's a several day trip, even on the train. I think
Yeah.
it's a 2.5 day trip.
so
So
summer of 2002, when we were living in Columbia, we had to get to California. We were our nephew's godparents, and so we were looking into flights and rental car. Like, to rent a car out there was going to cost as much as the plane tickets. And it was the summer before I was starting grad school at
you should have just hitchhiked,
South Carolina. Yeah.
like a normal California resident.
So we took a look at the calendar and the time that we had available, and I'd done a bunch of extra National Guard stuff that summer, so we had some extra money in the bank. And we just kind of looked at each other and shrugged and said, let's just drive. What the hell? And so we got my little VW Cabrio. We did 18 states with the top down that summer. And yeah, I was very sunburned by the end of it all. The last morning of the trip, the morning we got up to drive home, my wife woke up throwing up like crazy, and that's how we found out our first kid was on the way.
Oh, okay. This is actually a cool idea. I think having like a railroad experience. I don't know. Maybe it's dumb. I'd have to think about that. There are things like D&D cruises, though, that you could go on and just, like, however long it lasts, you just play D&D the whole time.
BGG sponsors a cruise, and Mace, back when Jeff was alive.
Yeah, let me be candid. BGG could kiss my ass.
Well, sure,
so,
but they do one.
They do. That's nice.
Back when Jeff was still with us and running Mace, they had a Mace at sea several years in a row.
So. Yeah, Mark, the nearest rail depot in Columbus is Cleveland. So, guess you're taking the bus.
Isn't there a rail stop in Dayton? I seem to remember there was a rail stop.
There might have used to be. I don't know.
Yeah, like one in Dayton, but not in Columbus. You know, like, what the hell?
No, Columbus has never had an Amtrak station, as far as I'm aware.
The 2010, the first year that Connections went to the National War College in DC, or the Army War College. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, whichever was the one at Fort McNair.
One of the various war colleges.
One of the war colleges. Brian Train flew down from wherever he is in British Columbia down to LA and got on a train with Joe Miranda, and they took the train to DC. And apparently between them designed like 11 games on the trip, I guess. So
okay, that makes perfect sense. Coming from Brian, that makes perfect sense. And Joe, holy crap, I just got another game from Joe that hasn't even registered that I haven't yet.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm telling you, man, there's commercial possibilities here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm down.
Yeah. Set it up.
I may end up taking the train. If I do Circle DC, I may just take the train up there because there's a direct shot from Raleigh to DC. So
yeah, well, you got halfway decent rail access, and I guess I do too. I mean, it's probably an hour away, but it's not that big a deal. But I mean, the destinations are limited, right? Our passenger rail system is not great anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole separate history lesson of how things grew up based on population density and yada, yada, yada.
So, yeah. All that. And the rise of the automobile and personal independence and all that jazz. So we're not getting into that tonight.
Steve's point about cross-country road trips are for the young and for the retired.
Yep.
The retired that still have, a whole lot of spine left to sit in the car for that long, which is rapidly not becoming me.
I'll tell you what, if you are willing to take your time and just drive for 4 hours at a time, take a break for a couple hours, go see something, whatever. I could totally get behind that. I can't take that kind of time off. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, from here to Columbus, it's 8 hours. I do that in a day pretty regularly. That summer of 2002, when we had to get to California, we did that pretty quick because we had to be there by a certain date, right? We're going for our nephew's christening. We got to be there by a certain day. But coming back, we had nothing but time to kill. And so like we took an extra day in Denver because my wife's aunt and uncle lived in Denver, and we, stayed an extra day over with them, got some maintenance work done on the car, and went to the zoo. You know what I mean? It's like we took our time coming back. We did as much of it as possible off of interstate highways, right? We wanted to take back roads on purpose, and we had a good time doing it. It was a lot of fun. I'm never going to do it again. It was a lot of fun that summer. So
yeah, I totally buy that. So that's a bit different. You guys all seem to have back problems, knee, right, knee or hip problems.
It's the knees more than anything else. Jumping on and off tanks is hell on the knees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you tack 40 years of soccer onto that, and yeah, it's a wonder my knees work at all.
That's true. So. I actually had rather severe knee pain today. It went away after I sat down for a while, but I had been on my feet for about 3 hours working on this table.
So you can tell we're all a bunch of old war gamers by talking about all the body parts.
God damn it! My sciatica's been bothering me.
Yeah, if there's any kids watching, they've long since tuned out because it sounds like a grandpa convention.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah, Jeff, you're not wrong. Detroit to Columbus is almost all back roads.
Yep. So I actually, Mark, grew up in Lorain County. So if that rings a bell for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Which is where Elyria is. So for those who aren't from Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, aren't familiar with the area.
Yeah. Elyria is a bit of a shithole, unfortunately. Lorain also a shithole. But there's nice parts of Lorain County too. So.
Yeah. So, look, this year's ACDC has a very different character to it than previous ones, largely because we're missing some of our usuals. Ryan Howman usually has something here that he's doing. Gary, you've usually got like two.
That could be my fault, admittedly. Ryan's got a whole bunch of stuff going on, not just stuff I'm bothering him for, but
yeah. You usually have, multiple sessions of stuff, either talk shows or games. This year, you only really had the time to fit two things in there.
I don't really have the time for this either, Brant. I got to tell you, be completely honest.
Appreciate it. We normally get at least one, usually two sessions of something out of Ozarski.
Yeah,
we've usually got Mo here all weekend. He's not able to make it. Look, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. Like, we love having those guys here. I'm very thrilled at how well other folks have jumped in, not because they knew, oh, these guys aren't there, let me go volunteer for stuff. We just had a bunch of new faces pop up, and like the Code Atlas guys, kind of popping in a little bit out of nowhere, going, hey, we've got this thing, we'd love to show it off. Sure, guys, come on down. The Nations and Cannons thing kind of fell into our lap. The Ad Astra guys with the Squadron Strike.
Oh yeah, Ken's
here all the time. Yeah, Ken's here all the time.
His people. So
yeah, and it's really cool stuff. But usually Hasdrubal's playing in things instead of GMing them. This year he's filling the gap for Ozarski. So we still have some Napoleonic Mini stuff. It's just a different GM this time.
Now, did you have a Kriegspiel last year?
We did, yeah. Jan Heineman and Marshall Neal and those guys usually show up with a pretty.
You're supposed to say Jan's name as though you were Dan and attempting to prevent yourself from pooping while screaming it.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Heineman part?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Kriegspiel guys. This is the third or fourth year that we've had them. Going back through, that's
the International Kriegspiel Society, folks. They are professionals over there.
Yeah. This is, I was looking back. This is like our 6th or 7th digital wargame convention that we've done. I mean,
didn't you do like one a month for a while?
It felt like it. We did. The first one was the summer 2020 because we had to. Like, COVID hit, and we didn't know what we were doing, so we're like, all right, let's try a digital convention and see what happened, and it worked. We're like, oh, it's kind of cool. We should do this again.
Well, yeah. And now we have. So other than, let me ask this. There probably is, and I'll feel stupid as soon as you answer the question. Are there any other digital wargame forward events other than this and SD, whatever they're calling it?
So the HMGS guys have tried a couple of times to get something going, and they may actually have something consistent that I'm just not aware of because I'm not a big minis dude.
Right. I mean, I was going to say it's really a minis thing, and if you're playing minis online, it's kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
right?
but for tabletop stuff, I don't know of any other regular tabletop digital convention gatherings like this, other than us and SD Hist.
There you go. One of these days, Brant, I'm gonna since you've resolutely refused to Dragoon Fabrizio into doing it with their games, I'm gonna have to run an all weekend OCS game.
Yeah, I've the challenge with Fabrizio is a scheduling one. Every time we reach out to him to do something, they're in the middle.
It's the middle of the night. Yeah.
Well, it's the middle of the night part doesn't bother me, and I'll explain why in a second. The problem is we keep hitting them right in one of the key production timelines that they're doing.
Yes, their entire production timeline is the mid-December to mid-January. Yeah. So yes, you are totally doing that.
That seems to screw us. So Jeff, Connections Online's a little different because that one's not as much of a game playing convention and more of a professional seminar setup.
Yeah, it's not at all a game playing convention.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't counting that one. Now the other thing is Connections Online. Look, we can claim half the credit for that because we're the guys that run all the infrastructure underneath it. That's
the budget is small, folks.
Yeah, all the tabletop.events registration stuff and the scheduling piece and all that. That's and a lot of the StreamYard setup. That's all our folks dealing with that and taking care of that for the Connections Online team. The Dragoons make up half of the organizing committee, so that one's still us. Mike, yes, but those weren't war game focused, and I think that's what Gary was asking there.
I did say war game forward, or like that. So yeah, that is what I mean. So is Gen Con? Does Gen Con have an online component?
They've done online stuff here and there, but I think since they've gotten,
I didn't think that was a regular. I'm not really paying a ton of attention to Gen Con because there's like no chance of me going. So
Jeff, we absolutely do have war games played at Connections. And that's a big part of the professional development piece that we build into there. But they take up less than a third at most of the actual convention, the conference timeline. And honestly, if we unplugged the game sessions, the rest of the conference would still primarily stand there. But yeah, we did summer 2020. We did the one in 2021 on MLK weekend. And then we did another one in the summer of 2021. Not that we were planning to, but that was the weekend Origins moved off of because of the COVID restrictions still being in place. And when they moved Origins to October of that year, we grabbed that Origins weekend and ran kind of a short notice ACDC in the middle of the summer there. And then 22, 23, 24, we've done MLK weekend. So
yeah, I have a great idea, by the way. And this is an idea that I think would be equally applicable and interesting for both this event or Connections, actually. I don't know if this is even possible, right? I don't know if we have like
the fact that you've left Jeff Beeler's Traveler comment on screen while building up the pitch to this.
Yeah. The Western Approach is Tactical Unit. Have somebody, I know there's been seminars about it. Have somebody run it.
Sure, if you find me somebody that can run it.
How cool would that be? I don't know if they even wrote the rules down, right? So I don't know if that's even possible. But boy, it'd be really cool, wouldn't
it? The primary person that I think we could reach out to about doing something with it would be Chris Carlson from the Admiralty Trilogy group. I just don't know how busy Chris. Chris wouldn't be the guy to actually execute it. Chris would be the guy to help organize it, or tag in the appropriate person to do that organizing. I think it would be really cool.
I think that would be really cool. You can have that idea for free.
Sure.
So, but yes, Jeff, there are Traveler events each year. The big one is the May Day one that Cyborg Prime does. It's the one that kind of has the most gas, I think. And there's usually some really interesting events and a bunch of games and other cool stuff. And invariably, I have something going on that weekend and can't participate. Yeah. So it's usually my birthday weekend. Let me put it that way. So it's kind of not great time wise for me. This year, on the other hand, my birthday weekend is Buckeye Game Fest. So we're screwing that up. But I'll be back by the 5th. So
yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're into double-digit digital conventions at this point between all the ACDCs. We've done 4 Connections Online events so far, with the 5th one we're in the planning stages right now for this coming April. And then we did the one-off MastaraCon a couple of years ago for the RPG guys. That one was a lot of fun, just for all the talk show folks we had involved in that. And I would love to have another MastaraCon happen if somebody else from that community would step up as the lead to help run it. I don't mind coaching them through how to set it up and do it, but man, I got enough other stuff I'm setting up and running these days. So,
yeah, I was gonna say, so the Western. Here, I'll just give it
the Watu.
Yeah, just Google it. Western Approaches Tactical Group.
Yeah, it was.
This was. By all means, go ahead.
It was a group of British Royal Navy folks during World War II that developed through a variety of wargaming. Actually, developed a lot of what became the convoy protection system for moving supplies across the Atlantic, and ways in which they could fight the German U-boats. Like every historical event ever, the folks that are big fans of Watu dramatically overstate how effective it was, and the folks who don't like the dude that ran the Western Approaches Tactical Unit dramatically overstate how useless it was. The truth is always in the middle. It was very useful for a lot of its initial development, and the refinements that they were able to work in from what they learned actually being on the ocean did help over the years. But the original development of it all was a whole bunch of Royal Navy Wrens out on, giant floors, pushing model ships around, trying to war game through. Okay, what if we arrange the convoys this way? What if we do this based on what we know of German tactics? How would they approach this kind of thing? And developed a lot of convoy procedures that they put in place during the Battle of the Atlantic. Yeah. That's the very, very short thumbnail version of it. Folks that are knowledgeable of it will probably tell you I just said 9 things wrong in 2 sentences. But
it's fine. But I wouldn't be shocked to see David and or Liz on a project like this. But boy, that'd be meta as hell. We're gonna make a war game. What's it about? Well, it's about this war game. Wait a minute. So, but I mean, I think you might be able to do something cool with that.
Yeah, the Wrens were the Women's Royal Navy something. And I think the S didn't stand for anything. I think it was, is that what it was? Women's Royal Navy. There it goes.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I think the E became notional. I knew there was one of the letters that didn't stand for something in there. I'm going to assume Meandering Mike is correct on this. Just give him credit.
I'm going to assume that too. I'm happy to do that. And the British, you British folks have the Welsh on your island. Spelling is optional.
So Carl, what it was is it's one of the very cut and dried professional wargaming success stories of this war game with this analytical approach led directly to this specific usage of something in battle that contributed toward the overall success of the campaign.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of a number of examples I can think of offhand. Certainly the Rainbow Plans, I think, had some impact as well. But and there's, of course, the Mark Herman story about the Gulf War. So
yeah, well, that, and there were a handful of analytical war games that were very logistics focused, that dramatically impacted Gulf One, that were actually built around when the Russians invaded Afghanistan. Everybody in the U.S. said, well, what do we do about it? Well, turns out we can't do shit because we've got nothing over there. And to move anything over there would have taken a really long time and a whole lot of lift that we didn't already have in place. And so everybody said, well, if this happens again, what do we do? Well, how about we pre-position a whole bunch of stuff and maybe have a lot of our logistics assets already, forward based or forward capable. That's when we started using Diego Garcia a lot more. That's when we started looking at a couple of friendly Gulf states to forward position some C2 assets and some log assets. So when Gulf One blew up, we actually had forward positioned things we could fall in on. So,
well, it's not like that was a new idea, right? I mean, Pumpkus was basically that too.
You're right, but we didn't have any of it there.
Right. It was in the wrong part of the world.
It was in the wrong part of the world. The other thing that happened with the Pomka stuff, though, is the Pomka stuff was very heavily focused on the fighting equipment and a little less focused on the logistics piece, under the assumption that the NATO allies would provide a whole lot of those logistics pieces for us from their own country internally, whereas we couldn't make those assumptions of non-NATO countries in the Gulf. And so a lot of logistics assets is what got moved forward.
Oh, everybody loves war games with tons of logistics, as you know.
Yeah,
Brant.
well,
so you did a whole seminar on that. Well, yeah, well, they bet that's why they're pros, right?
Yeah,
professional study logistics. All right, Aaron, thanks for stopping by. As you know, we love logistics around here. That's why we're gunning for a copy of Campaign for North Africa.
Yeah. So, Colonel Fetters, the vowels that the Welsh didn't get, I think the Hawaiians ended up snapping up. So
that's true, because there's Russian, which is all consonants, and Hawaiian, which is all vowels.
I always wanted to see Wheel of Fortune Hawaiian edition. I'd like to buy a vowel, please. You've got negative $440.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you're going to be in the red.
Yeah, pretty quickly. So Gary, how is the campaign for North Africa going?
Oh, it's well, hold on.
You have your campaign meter you can throw up there?
There's my campaign meter. We're at 13% of our campaign for North Africa. In fact, I'm going to put that on here. The campaign for North Africa.
So we will be campaigning for the campaign
for
North Africa.
Right. There will be a campaign for North Africa. So we're totally doing that.
Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Well, maybe, but English has the problem with English is we got way more vowels than we have letters. We talked about this on the show the other night. So,
I'll let you explain.
Well,
it's your campaign for the campaign.
We are working towards obtaining a copy of Campaign for North Africa, and you can help, folks. I wasn't actually going to put this in here. But you can help, folks, but not by doing anything that you weren't going to do anyway. If you're going to buy war games or whatever, go to Noble Knight. There's an affiliate link in the video description, and then I'll get a little bit of a kickback in store credit. And when that piles up enough, then we will buy a copy of Campaign for North Africa. And then we will do videos on Campaign for North Africa. Because screw you, Matt Colville. You let us all down. So...
But you have to do them while wearing the Sheldon Cooper t-shirt.
Those are available, so I could do that. That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
And
this table, when finished, will fit Campaign for North Africa. As long as I build the special extension.
Yeah.
Required for Campaign for North Africa. If it's this footprint, I think it is, which is essentially identical to DAC, then I'll need the extension.
I'm still waiting for somebody to take my my North Africa, my small footprint North Africa war game example, the idea out for a spin. And that is, you can play an entire North Africa war game on about a 3x4 table. But the key is you've got to take the maps and put them on a scroll and clamp them to the ends. So that way, as the war moves back and forth up and down the North African coast, you just roll the scroll to wherever the campaign's actually taking place.
Yeah, unfortunately, the war game publishers seem unwilling to publish their maps as giant scrolls.
I know, look,
cool idea though.
The D&D guys have done this. I mean, the guys from Yarrow Studios have the Infinite Dungeon, which is like 5 feet wide.
I remember that.
Feet long.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that.
And it ships as a pair of scrolls that you clamp onto your table. And
it seems like an absurd idea, but glorious.
It absolutely is. The Yarrow Studios guys were at Origins one year, and they had like a mock-up, like the homemade, not the production version of this, but like the homemade mock-up of it clamped to the table. And it is absolutely absurd, but it's one of those things you look at and you go, there is zero practical value in this, and I want one anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I almost bought that dungeon map.
Mike's got one.
So I actually had my wife's approval to buy that too, and I regret not buying it ever since.
But Mike says he's got one. Mike, you've totally got to give us a video on the Yarrow Studio scrolls if you haven't already. If you have,
totally. I'll totally watch that video. Please do.
Yeah, I've got one of the Yarrow Studios big map books with it. It's like a 12 by 18 book, and they all lay flat, so you end up with this giant like 18 by 24 grid map as you lay out each of the spreads, and they're very attractive maps, and they did a really good job with them. And so yeah, they're gorgeous. So when I saw the Euro Studios dudes at Origins that year, I made it a point to stop by and go, all right, what do you got? And they, let me show you this Infinidungeon thing. I was like, that is ridiculous, and I totally want it.
It's a cute idea. Carl, thanks very much. The support is much appreciated. It will go into the pool of stuff for Campaign for North Africa.
Yeah. So the the proof of concept exists. Now we just need a war game publisher to do something wacky enough, like a North Africa game on a scroll map.
It's somewhat impractical, right? But this is kind of making me think of, are there other campaigns that you could do that with? And I'm sure there are, right? I mean, you can even do that with might be tough to do on the East Front, wouldn't
it? The one that comes to mind, unfortunately, I mean, what you need something that is a long, fairly linear campaign somewhere.
Yeah.
And the one that comes to mind is Market Garden. The problem is you've got the paratroopers up ahead that, we just lost Gary. Gary, where'd you go? Dude, am I still broadcasting? I think I am. What happened to Gary? Oh, boy. Anyway, the Market Garden thing would be very impractical because the paratroopers would be like under the scroll somewhere. What'd you do to yourself?
My Chrome tab crashed.
Ah, fair enough. So
not a big deal. You can
hissy cat sniper got him.
There you go. Oh, the what's 350 on BGG? Oh, yeah, I'm not sure what's up with that. That's there's a copy of Campaign for North Africa that's been up on BGG for a number of months at 350, and it kind of sounds like that's a seller that's not getting back to anybody. I don't know. Well, you just need one map for this, right? I mean, traditionally this has been handled on one map. Yeah, I don't know if it's legit or not. I want some info from that person before handing them through 50.
Look, there's a lot of different campaigns you could do this with if you're willing to get granular enough.
Yeah, but it's kind of this is an interesting one because it's got kind of this linearity, right?
Yeah.
Where you've got the North African coast. Yeah. And assuming your map orientation works for this, you'd run into problems when you hit Tunisia. But it would work for that, because remember, these aren't the whole camp. These almost no North Africa games are the whole thing in North Africa. Yeah. Mostly they're just the Western Desert campaign, right? So that area in the El Alamein and Tobruk and that part of North
Alexandria
Africa.
to Tobruk and back again.
Well, they never made it as far as Alexandria, so that's academic. But but like the part of Tunisia that the big invasion and at Casablanca and all that stuff, we just leave that out. Most games leave that out. Mike Grinella's Blood and Sand, is that what it's called? Does that part of the war. Yeah. And Desert Fox Deluxe, a Stigler favorite, as you know, is also does it, as does War in the Desert for Europa, and that might be it. There's at least one more that does, but
What's in Africa?
David Thompson apparently is having insomnia this evening. David, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, I'm glad you and Liz were able to make it.
We all just assumed you were already in bed.
Yeah.
You get up at 3 a.m. like a crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we were only able to get Dave and Liz for tonight. But would have loved to have had them a couple other times over the weekend showing off Night Witches just to build some pub for that one, because it is a pretty cool game.
Yeah. So there you go. Get to work on this, Brant.
Yeah. The one of the other things, though, I mean, so like the Infinidungeon, as you scroll, you're constantly moving forward, right? It's the platformer video game, whereas the Western Desert one, you'd actually have to like scroll that thing back and forth a couple of times depending on the ebb and flow of the campaign.
Potentially.
So you would have to keep that thing moving in both directions.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Maybe not all the way to the end of either one, but no, you know what I'm saying.
But it would, rearrangeable map segment.
It's a cute idea, like I said. So
you can sort of kind of do that with some of the squad leader maps as a long linear map where they connect end to end.
Well, there are scenarios that do that, but the fact is that most squad leader scenarios are comfortably confined on one map, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not going to be fighting your way off the map. If you are, then that's generally a victory condition, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the whole thing about, hey, what's up, Byron? Going back to the whole thing about, getting Fabrizio involved in this, and maybe you do this with OCS, I don't know, but one of the things that I've joked with Fabrizio about wanting to do at one of these digital conventions, I want to run a full 24-hour game. I want to play one of those games all the way to complete, because with a digital convention, you can do this with the different time zones.
Mhm.
Like we can tag the Aussies in as the West Coast is going to bed. And then we can tag the Europeans in as the Aussies are crashing out, and then bring the US East Coast on again after that, and actually have a shift change where you've got to do like a shift change briefing in the command post of, hey, this is where we are. This is what we're working on. This is what we're doing. This is what's coming next. We think you should do the following things. And then they get to hand the battle off to the next shift when those guys come on. And so, yeah, you're playing like a 5 or 6 hour session, but then you're going to hand it off to somebody else who's going to take the next 6 hours and then hand it off to somebody else. And at a digital convention, you could kind of pull that off. Like nobody, okay, not nobody. There's a couple of nut jobs that we know about, but there's hardly anybody who's staying up for a 24-hour game at Origins, right? That's just not
happening. I mean, no, it doesn't seem to happen anymore. To some extent, that's probably just like an aging of the community thing. I'm not talking about war games. I'm talking about convention attendees. Normally,
talking about anybody, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see people still gaming at 2 a.m. at Origins. I just don't.
I saw it happen one year there were some dudes. This would have been 06 or 07 or so. There were a couple of dudes on the Sky Bridge, but over the tracks in the middle of the convention center.
Back when they had gaming up there.
Yeah, well, no. This there was no formal anything set up. These dudes had a bunch of maps laid out up against the wall on the east side of that Sky Bridge where you're kind of out of the main walkway. And they just wanted to see what a 10,000 point HeroClix game would look like.
Okay.
It's like 80 models on a side here. And they were doing a 3-player game. So they had 3 dudes with like 80 models each and like 9 map sheets all tucked together to make this. And so the WizKids dudes got wind of this and came over to take some pictures. And the guys are like, yeah, we got it set up and it looks really cool. We're just not 100% sure, how quickly we could play through this whole thing. And the WizKids dudes told them, they're like, if you play through this entire thing and you take pictures throughout to like show us that you're playing your way through it, we've got a giant pile of swag that we will hook you up with from our booth. And so these dudes played through the night to get through this. And they were taking pictures with their cell phones like every hour or so, getting selfies, of them with the map as the numbers of heroes were dwindling. But everybody was coming back into the convention next morning at 7:30. I was an exhibitor that year, so we're coming back in at 7:30, 8 o'clock to go start getting booths set up, and these dudes still had like 35 models on the map trying to finish up. But yeah, I mean, the WizKids guys hooked them up with like a giant pile of all kinds of HeroClix stuff.
Hey, you just bought some advertising, that's all.
It was really cool to see these guys just get this totally wacko gonzo idea and then get basically bribed into running with it. That's the only overnight anything that I've seen at Origins in the almost 20 years that I've been going.
Yeah, I feel like people used to be more willing to like stay up all night. And I'm not, this isn't an indictment, man. I ain't staying up that late either anymore. My bedtime is usually right around 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And on those occasions when I don't get to bed at some kind of reasonable time, I am almost useless the next day. So
I'm wondering if those guys don't exist and we just don't know who they are because they're not in our peer group, right?
Maybe. I mean, this could be an age thing. Let's be real here.
22-year-olds that we just don't know because we don't know that many 22-year-olds.
No, I have no idea what it's even like to be 22 anymore. Knowing how to work your cell phone and all that jazz. So I haven't the vaguest idea. I was playing HeroClix when it came out, though.
Yeah, so the copyrights for some of the characters did in fact run out, and then not the copyright, but the license for some of those characters ran out, and some of the HeroClix stuff had to go to other places. That's one of the reasons WizKids, knowing that was coming, were trying to diversify the product line, which is why the HorrorClix thing came along. And you saw like those were non-licensed characters in HorrorClix.
So what was the superhero one called? Was that HeroClix? Okay.
It was HeroClix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the fantasy one
Marvel
called?
stuff, and then they added some DC dudes and whatever else.
Right. I remember the Marvel. I bought the Marvel stuff, but
yeah,
it was fun-ish.
It was the same basic click base that they used for the original Mage Knight collectible
Mage
minis.
Knight. That's the game I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was the one they used for the Mech Warrior. You know, some folks, the Mech Warrior one was either loved or hated by BattleTech folks. But they were trying to build that into a sustainable product line with non-licensed material, and it just never took off once the superhero copyrights went. The Sports Clicks thing never took off. HorrorClix never took off. The Mech Warrior stuff kind of started to fall apart. It just never went.
I bought a few of them at the BattleTech, whatever that BattleTech thing was called. And that was neat, right? I'd rather play that than regular BattleTech personally, but I'm not a huge fan of BattleTech.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to do this too, right? We used to do all-night Rollmaster games, right? That it would be I don't know 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. I'm not doing that anymore. Thank you.
There were more than a few times in college where I at 9 o'clock in the dorm room, I'd fire up a Civ 1 game on my laptop, and then suddenly the sun's coming up, and I've got to head to class.
Now here's a man who knows how to do a convention right.
Holy cow.
He's not even going to, doesn't have time for this peasantry over here. He's going to Il Bioticon in Spain, and it's going to be glorious, and they're going to have great food, and the gaming looks pretty good too. Looks like an awesome event, actually.
Joe, have a blast. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And know that the more pictures of that you share, the more FOMO the rest of us are going to have.
Yeah, it's okay. I got my congratulatory conciliatory note. So it's all good.
What was the last game you got in the door there? What was your most recent acquisition? Was it that one?
No, the new issue of World War Magazine came in after this did.
Okay.
So, which is Kesselring's War. There'll be an unboxing of it this week. Kesselring's War, Sicily and Italy, 43-44. It actually looks great. Yeah. So a little pedestrian of a topic for Joe Miranda, I thought, but it looks good. So
everybody needs their filler games, right? Every great artist has a filler track on the album.
That's Joe taking a break.
that was Joe.
I don't know what. Yeah, I'm still not sure. I went through that, and I'm still not sure I understand what the big deal was. To be honest, nothing was said that I'd have kicked anybody for. So I assume he was just having a bad day.
I thought he powdered his way out the door, but I only caught like half of it.
Yeah, like I said, I had bad days too, so I'm not. And I can't force anybody to listen to me. Even my wife, she'll say "fuck you" and walk off. So
probably well deserved.
Oh, totally, it totally is when it happens. So.
Yeah, I tend to go on my bad mood rants online and written.
I mean, you'll remember having seen the giant 40K games with the full with the 28 millimeter Titans at Gen Con or Origins or something like that in the past, and I have no idea
the first couple
where
of years,
that kind of thing is happening anymore.
The first couple of years that I was at Origins, the minis room was like an entire exhibit hall, and it was enormous, and it was like museum quality dioramas in there. Like they had one giant battle on the walls of Troy. And they probably had like 6 tables shoved together to be able to stretch the walls out the whole way.
Does it feel to you like there is less miniatures at Origins now than there used to be as a percentage of the convention? Yeah, it seems like that to me too.
Yeah, and it doesn't
all miniatures, not just with something specific.
Yeah. All minis, yes. That said, the collectible card count has gone down quite a bit as well. So
has it? Okay. I just don't pay any attention, so I can't tell you.
A lot of that started when the Pokemon Nationals pulled out of there, and that cost them, 2,500 participants there.
Well, that's yeah, okay. What happened to the True Dungeon people? That was
They're
very
back
popular.
they're coming back this year.
Oh, are they? Okay, that's a big deal. Apparently, that's a big draw
Yeah.
for those
they're
who
back this year.
basically want. It's like a LARP, but with mandatory DLC.
It's a LARP / escape room.
Yeah, okay. I'll agree with the escape room analogy, but don't forget the most important part, which is the DLC you can buy.
Well, I have a feeling that I'm going to end up having to go through it at least once with my daughter.
There was a similar thing.
She's going to see it and go gaga over it.
It wasn't True Dungeon, but it was a similar thing at Origins this past year, and I forget who I was talking to that said, "Yeah, let's do." Oh, it was Mark Walker and Herman Lettman. We're thinking, yeah, this seems fun. Let's do that. And then they walked up and figured out what it costs, and it's like $40 per person. And they're like, nope, we're not doing it.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not a thing I do. I'm not saying it's not fun. It's probably fun, but
it is a non-trivial expense. That is for sure.
Well, it's the time, man. It's the time. I just don't have the time I want it, even at these events, right? I'm getting to go to a convention and like spend all day there and game and do all this stuff. And it's like, man, I gotta do something to keep the energy up besides drinking 37 liters of coffee a day. Right? Because that's not good for you.
No, not
I
normally.
mean, at that level, right? I mean, if I can't sleep at night because I had too much coffee to keep me going during the day, it's a problem, right? So, just having the time, including time to like rest and chill and all that. So,
yeah. Perfidious Albion's talking about best miniature battle hosted by the Naval Academy. They've done it at both Annapolis and up in Rhode Island at the Naval War College, where they've done the big Jutland down on the floor. And the one at the War College, I think that's an annual event. I'm not sure about the one in Annapolis, but I know the one in the War College is in. Daniel, you got Genghis Khan right in your backyard there. And I know the Lock and Load dudes have been there a couple of times over the years. I don't know if they're going to be there this year. I know Matt Cormack is going to be this year doing some of his Marvel role-playing stuff.
That's a drivable trip to Tempe as well.
Yeah.
Wisconsin World Expo.
Yep.
I mean, let me put it this way. Some retired people of my acquaintance live in Colorado and drive down to Tempe every year. Let me put it that way.
And that wouldn't have been too bad for going to Gamma Expo, but that's not a playing convention. That's a business expo.
No, that's very much a business. And that's moving to Louisville, right?
Yeah, it's going to Louisville for the next 3 years.
Okay.
The problem isn't the Louisville part of that. The problem is the next 3 years that overlaps my wife's birthday. That's the problem with Gamma Expo for the next 3 years.
They're just hosed. Sorry about that.
So,
yes, Jerry, I can verify that all the conventions are in fact in Ohio.
So, Matt is asking about anything in Florida. There is the Tampa ASL group does at least 2 events each year that are pretty good size, but you got to kind of be an ASL dude for that.
There's a Texas ASL bunch too.
Yeah, but the Tampa dudes are the guys that publish their stuff in some of the books that Scott carries at Gamers Armory. That's why
I'd be shocked if the Texas ASL group wasn't on that list as well, though.
Well, they probably are, and I'm just not aware of them.
No, I'm talking drive from Denver to Tempe for clarity.
There used to be one in Jacksonville, Florida, pretty regularly, but I don't know what happened to it after COVID, and I'd have to go check. As far as west of Ohio, so BGG Con is usually a fairly big deal. And there's usually 2 others in Texas. There's OwlCon down at it's just off the Rice campus in Houston. And then there's another one. It's the Texas War Machine or Texas War Days or something like that.
Kansas City Historical Games.
Kansas City has Historic KC Fest.
Yeah.
And there was something else that used to be pretty regular around Kansas City, and I'm totally brain dumping on it.
What about
Denver's got Genghis Khan. Out on the left coast, you've got SD HisCon, but you've also got OrcCon, Strategic Con, and there's a third one. There's 3 of them. They're Memorial Day, Labor Day, and like Veterans Day weekends, and I can't remember all 3 of the names. Carl will chime in here and tell us what they are.
Was there an Advance After Combat Con at one point? I thought there was.
There used to be. I don't know if it's still there. And that's the thing. Like a lot of these things used to be, and COVID killed a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Kubla Khan, thank you for chiming in there, Hissy Cat. There were plans for a CSW in Dallas that never quite came to fruition, and I think
they happened. That happened like once.
Okay,
and then or maybe twice, and then John ran into site issues, basically.
Well, I think it was a combination of site issues and John issues. I think John's just out of time now that he's doing more for Compass.
Well, I mean, that's possible.
There's Game On up in Seattle that usually includes a pretty significant war game component, and there's BotosCon. If Byron is still in the chat here, Byron helps run BotosCon.
And there's Game Moray in Oregon too.
Yep, Game Moray. Yeah, so Pacificon is Pacificon part of that Strategicon family with like Strategicon and OrcCon? I don't remember.
I don't know.
For those that aren't familiar with
California, I smell dirty miniatures. I don't know.
For folks that aren't familiar with California geography, Santa Clara is attached to San Jose. It's the Bay Area. Gamehole Con and Gary Con up in Wisconsin are both minis heavy. Jeff will chime in with Yukon here in a few minutes.
Gary Con is I don't know. I've never been to Gary Con. It looks like an RPG heavy event to me more than anything else. But
yeah, Gary Con and
Gary loves miniatures, so I'm sure there's miniatures there.
And if you're looking for mini stuff, Adepticon is the one to go to up in Chicago. So there's plenty of stuff on the west side of the country. Part of the challenge you run into out there is just the geography out west is really spread the fuck out, right? I mean, Salt Lake to Denver takes you a day to get there. So even if there's a convention at one of the big cities, it still takes you a day to get there.
Yeah, it's more spread out. We're Ohio's the friggin' promised land. Okay, we've got one of the HMGS events is here, maybe two of them. We've got Origins, which is the second or third largest hobby convention in the country of any kind. You've got Buckeye Game Fest, also partially at least at the same site. You've got Con on the Cob, which is like literally down the street from me. You've got
Winterfest.
There's Winterfest too. Winterfest is supposed to be secret, Brand. I don't know.
And you've got Sin City Con.
Yeah, that's true. I've never been to that. I've heard it's a good event. I just don't know that it's a good event for me. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know how much of a wargaming event it is, but it is there. And
I'm in principle willing to play other games as long as they're called Traveler. So.
And I think there used to be one in Dayton pretty regularly, but I'm not sure how much is still there. So
yeah, and NowsCon is still around, believe it or not. I don't know who the hell is going to that nowadays, but it's held in Sheffield Lake, Ohio, and it's still an annual thing, and it presumably draws the same 7 people that have been going for the last 20 years. So now NowsCon's still around. So there, the events are happening. War game events are a little thinner on the ground than general gaming conventions, right? Or I should say, less specific war game focused gaming conventions, because there's a mix all over the place. There's LARP, events where LARP is their thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was hoping to go to Chaosium Con to do the LARP there, actually, which sounded awesome. And there's no way I can go.
Yeah. So, the biggest difference with the East Coast is not so much that there are a lot of them. The biggest difference out here is they're just a lot easier to get to. Like,
plus GMT East,
GMT
West.
A day in the car, and out here, like I can get to DC and back in a day.
Did you say San Francisco to LA takes you a day?
Just under.
It's a shitty day.
Depends on where you're going too. I mean, if you're just stuck on if you go inland and get on I-5, yeah, it sucks.
I mean, it's like 2 hours just to get out of San Francisco, Brent.
I wouldn't do it on the PCH because you'll get stuck behind some schlub in an RV doing 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So, yes, I do live sort of near Cleveland, for anybody who was wondering about that. Wisconsin. There's a couple of Wisconsin. There's Gamehole Con. I don't know and there's Gary Con. I don't know if Winter Fantasy is still a thing. I don't think so. That was a very RPGA-oriented event that was operating. I think that might have gone away with TSR, to be honest. I'm probably dating myself here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's plenty of events, man.
Hissy Cat, you must be doing that at like 2 a.m. and not hitting any LA traffic at all. to go from San Diego to the Bay Area in 7 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. It's driving 200 miles an hour too. I don't know how you're doing that.
Because I've not made it out of LA in 7 hours.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, well, yeah.
That's true.
90s. And the PAX events, right? There's a PAX East, a PAX West, a PAX Unplugged East, a PAX Unplugged West, a PAX Unplugged, and wherever it's unplugged, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so there's tons of conventions, right? If you want to do war games specifically, you got to be a little more observant,
picky and choosy.
Yeah.
When I was at Fort Irwin up in Barstow and getting out of the Army, I had an interview out in Westlake Village in LA, which is basically as far south in the 805 area code as you can get before you're into LA. And so I'm coming out of Barstow, coming down the Cajon Pass to hit Riverside at 3:00 in the afternoon, trying to get to the 6 p.m. interview out in Westlake Village. So I'm going east-west across the length of LA, of the LA metro area, starting at 3:00 in the afternoon, which is early rush hour out there. Get to Westlake Village, got my 6:00 interview. You know, they tacked it on at the end of the day when they had time. And so I was there for, half hour, whatever it was. And then I had to get to San Diego from there. So now it's 7:00 and I'm driving north-south the entire length of the Southern California megalopolis. So I did both the east-west and north-south crossings of LA in one day. And that completely ruined any chance of me ever living in Southern California ever.
No,
and even the rest of California, we've got some California folks in the chat that anybody that lives in LA knows the distinction there, that once you get south of the 805 area code and west of I-215, you are in an alternate dimension known as Southern California that has nothing to do with the rest of California. So
one could make a case that California is really like 3 or 4 different states.
Oh God, yes.
3 or 4 different non-contiguous states at that. So, all right, folks, we are out of time, and we are well over time, to be honest about it. So I'm going to, you have any final messages, Brant, for the folks interested in the Armchair Dragoons digital convention for the year?
Yeah, so anybody that's not already registered, that's just watching, go take a look at the event listings. There's plenty of cool shit happening. It's not all necessarily big name cool shit, but it's still cool shit. And I recommend.
We got some big name cool shit too.
We do. But take a plunge, especially some of those pre-pub smaller press things. There are some definite uncovered gems there, undiscovered gems that you should really go take a look at and give them a chance. And even if it doesn't turn out to be your cool new favorite game, you found something kind of cool to check out, and you may know somebody that you can tell them, hey, I just found your cool new favorite game, and point somebody else in that direction. But those of you that are here this weekend for the Armchair Dragoons digital convention, really appreciate you being here. I hope you have a great time with it and have a lot of fun with it. After this, all the happy hour social gathering stuff is primarily in Discord. We've got the talk shows still going on YouTube. The rest of it's all gonna be in Discord, where we can turn on the cameras and kind of bullshit together and have a good time. And we hope the rest of y'all come on out and have some fun with us.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody, have a great night. Brant, thanks for coming on and joining me this evening. We'll talk to you again before too long here.
You betcha.
Everybody else, have a great night. We'll see you next time. Well, don't forget we'll be broadcasting the OCS boot camp here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. That's correct. So don't forget that if you're interested in learning how to play OCS. All right, everybody, have a great night.